Single dad CEO discovers little girl in trash on Christmas Eve. What happens next is bone-chilling. The chill in the air on that frigid Christmas Eve wrapped around Jack like a forgotten ghost, creeping up from the edges of the dimly lit alley where he found himself rummaging through discarded boxes. The festive lights twinkled cheerfully above him, a cruel joke against the stark reality of his search. In a city that was supposed to be full of joy and warmth, all he felt was the biting cold and an ache in his chest. But then, just as he turned to walk away, a faint, muffled whimper stopped him in his tracks. It was not the typical sound of holiday cheer. No, it was something raw, something terrifying. As Jack knelt down, his heart raced. The smell of refuse filled his nostrils, a mix of old food and something sweeter, almost like the scent of hope tinged with despair. Dirty rags shifted under his hands, and then, through a cloud of trash, he spotted a tiny figure bundled in filth. The moment he uncovered her, his breath caught. She was a little girl, no more than 5, her wide, frightened eyes staring back at him from a nest of broken dreams. Her hair was matted, tangled with debris, and her clothes were nothing but grimy scraps. "Hey there. It's okay," he whispered, trying to soothe the chaos rising within him. But he could feel it tightness in his chest, hands trembling as he reached towards her. That instinct to protect bubbled up so fiercely. This wasn't just any little girl. She was a lost soul in an ocean of carelessness. Jack's thoughts raced faster than his heart. How could anyone do this? Abandon someone so fragile? The alley was now dimly lit by flickering fairy lights, but in that moment, it felt like a dark chasm threatening to swallow them both whole. He picked her up, cradling her against him. The warmth of her small body against his felt electric amid the cold. She didn't cry, just looked up at him with those wide, innocent eyes full of unspoken stories and an undeniable fear. What horror had she faced that had led her to this? He could feel the stares of passers-by, murmurings of disbelief swirling around them like a cold wind. The questions echoed in the air. Who was she? Where had she come from? Just then, the sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the night like a haunting reminder that safety was not guaranteed. Jack's chest tightened further. This was real. This was urgent. He had to protect her, but what did he even know about keeping a child safe? He was still reeling from his own struggles, a single dad with a growing tech company and an empty home. Just as he began to turn, a flash illuminated the alley, a camera phone aimed at them, capturing this shocking moment for the world to see. Jack's heart dropped. Would they see her? Would they understand her pain? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just like that, with the world around him still spinning in chaos, Jack could only wonder if this was the beginning of a nightmare or the spark of something greater. He felt the girl clutch his shirt, and something deep inside him ignited. A fierce determination to unravel this mystery. What happened next would shake the very foundation of his world. What secrets lay hidden behind those innocent eyes? As he ran, he couldn't help but feel everything had changed, but for better or worse. Jack dashed through the narrow streets, the little girl clinging to him, her small fingers digging into his jacket. The sounds around them faded, the distant carolers, the joyful laughter, until all he could hear was the swift rhythm of his heart pounding in his ears. Fear gripped him. He wasn't just a father now. He was a protector, a guardian desperately trying to keep them both safe. The alleyways, once familiar, morphed into a labyrinth of shadows and uncertainty. He skidded around a corner just as the sound of heavy footsteps chased after them, the pounding heavier than the sirens. Jack's instincts kicked in. He plunged toward a bustling street where the soft glow of store windows beckoned. People moved about, blissfully unaware of the peril behind them. "Please, don't let them take me," the girl whispered, her voice fragile as glass. His heart sank. Who was after her? What had she escaped? He pulled her closer, vowing silently that he would keep her safe. He hurried past the crowds, hoping to blend in, to disappear among the holiday revelers. Jack could feel the weight of their gazes, the murmurings about the boy and the girl, two figures out of place in a night meant for celebration. "Do you have a name?" he asked softly, trying to ease her fear. "Lila," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Lila. The name felt foreign yet familiar. He wanted to wrap it in love and warmth, to give it a new meaning. Then he heard the crack of a voice behind him, sharp and commanding. "Hey, stop!" Jack's stomach twisted. His instinct screamed to run, but he couldn't not while holding Lila. He turned, locking eyes with a man striding toward them. The man's expression was intense, filled with a conflicting blend of urgency and menace. A glint reflected in his eyes, hinting at something darker. "Who are you?" Jack asked, trying to maintain poise. But the tremor in his voice betrayed him, revealing the panic threatening to escape. The man was closer now, face resolute. "You need to give her back." Jack's breath hitched. "What do you mean, give her back? She was abandoned? The man laughed harshly, his voice sending a chill down Jack's spine. "She was misunderstood. Hand her over, and I can explain. It's not what you think." Jack shifted protectively with Lila, every instinct screaming not to let her go. His mind spun with questions. Who was this man? What kind of ties did he have to her? But the more pressing feeling was an undeniable urge to keep Lila from his grasp. "Let us get out of here," Jack urged as he turned to push through the crowd. But now panic gripped Lila. Her eyes darted to the man, a spark of recognition flooding her features. "Don't let him take me," she cried, terror blazing in her voice. "Please, Lila," Jack murmured, desperation clawing at him. "Stay close." The man lunged forward, and in the chaos, Jack's instincts kicked in again. He shoved Lila behind him, filled with the determination of 1,000 fathers. He was ready to fight, knowing full well that sometimes people disguised as saviors had darker intentions hidden beneath. Jack sprinted into the heart of the crowd, the chilly air thick with fear and uncertainty. Behind him, the man's frustrated shout echoed against the night. One wrong move could end it all. The stakes were impossibly high. Just as Jack felt the distance between them grow, a glimmer of hope emerged the small cafe ahead, its warm lights announcing refuge. "Hold on tight," he warned Lila, pushing forward. The moment they crossed into safety, hearts racing and minds reeling, he turned to face the chaos behind him. Could they really escape unharmed? But before he could catch his breath, the man's voice cut through the air again, sharp and threatening. "This isn't over, Jack. You have no idea what you're getting into." As they stood there, hearts pounding, Jack felt the weight of Lila's hand in his. This was just the beginning. What dark truths awaited them in the shadows? Code red. Time was running out, and they still didn't know the real danger lurking just beneath the surface. Inside the cafe, warmth enveloped Jack and Lila. They made their way to a secluded corner, away from the glass doors, while the hustle of the outside world continued unabated. Jack's breath felt ragged, his chest tightened as he glanced back, half expecting the man to burst through the doorway at any moment. His instincts screamed that this was only the beginning. "Jack!" Lila's voice quivered, drawing him back. She was staring at him, her wide eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Let us just stay here for a moment," he said, trying to sound calm. "We'll think. Just stay low." He watched as she tucked herself into the booth's farthest corner, her small frame almost disappearing against the faux leather upholstery. Each passing second felt like an eternity. Jack hunched over their table, mind racing, trying to piece together everything that had just happened. Why did that man want Lila? What had she done to make someone so intent on reclaiming her? Jack rubbed his temple, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. The memory of his daughter's laughter echoed in his mind, and a familiar knot of helplessness formed in his stomach. If something happened to Lila, he couldn't bear it. He glanced around the cafe. Warmly lit decorations hung loosely, twinkling cheerfully, a harsh contrast to the fear buzzing in his veins. The chatter and clinking of cups felt distant, barely registering while he focused on Lila. She had gone eerily quiet, and a heavy silence hung between them. "Lila," he whispered, leaning closer. What did he mean misunderstood? Her gaze shifted from the window to him, fear swirling in those doe-like eyes. "I don't know. I was taken. He wants me back. I can't go back, Jack. Please." His heart ached. You're safe now. We're together, and you're safe. But the assurance didn't seem to reach her. You don't understand. They'll come for me. There was a desperation in her voice, as if she were pleading not just for herself, but for the both of them. Jack hesitated. A small part of him felt the impossibility of what they were discussing. Who are they? She gulped, struggling to find the words. They're different. You won't believe me. They can do things. Different? What do you mean by that? Panic flared in Jack. He had a suspicion that the different was connected to whatever dark truth surrounded Lila. Before she could answer, a heavy thud echoed through the cafe. Jack spun around to see the glass door swing open, a gust of icy air rushing in. The man stood there, a silhouette against the glow of streetlights. Jack's pulse thundered. The menacing glint in the man's eyes pierced through the festive atmosphere like a knife. Jack, the man drawled, his voice smooth yet laced with danger. You've made a mistake thinking you could hide. Lila belongs with me. Lila covered her mouth, stifling a gasp. Jack felt the raw adrenaline surge through him. He had to protect her. There was no other option. Stay behind me, Jack instructed sharply, adrenaline now coursing through his veins. He could feel the eyes of the cafe watching, whispers vibrating in the air, and he welcomed them. The more witnesses, the better. Give her back, Jack demanded, blood roaring in his ears. The man's grin grew wider, a predator circling its prey. No, you have no idea what you're getting into. Just as those words hung thick in the air, a sudden crash of glass shattered the moment as chaos erupted in the cafe, people screaming, scrambling for the exit. Jack's instincts kicked in, heart pounding as he seized Lila's hand. Run. He charged toward the back emergency exit, the lives and chaos behind them fading into a cacophony of shock and uncertainty. All they needed was a moment of break from the storm gathering behind them. But as they burst out of the cafe into the icy street, the man's voice echoed across the square, chilling Jack to the bone. You can't hide from the truth forever, Jack. The chase wasn't just physical. It was a descent into a world he never knew existed. Now, it was up to him to uncover the mysteries that surrounded this little girl he vowed to protect. What awaited him in the night? What truths would unravel under the weight of their fears? The darkness held secrets, and Jack was only beginning to scratch the surface. The cold air hit them like a slap, sharp and relentless. Jack pulled Lila closer as they sprinted down the alley, their feet pounding against the cracked pavement. The cafe's glow receded behind them, swallowed by the clamor of their hurried escape. Jack, where are we going? Lila breathed, her voice a mix of fear and confusion. I don't know yet, he admitted, his mind racing with the possibilities. Somewhere safe. Panic surged in his chest, a throbbing reminder of the danger lingering just steps behind. He couldn't let that man catch them, not when Lila's life was on the line. The possibility weighed heavily on his shoulders. Do you still have the phone? Lila asked, her tone suddenly serious. Jack reached into his pocket, fingers brushing against the cool metal. Yeah, but I doubt we can use it right now, too many eyes. Just keep it hidden. If we get a chance, we can call anyone. He nodded, grateful she had the presence of mind he was struggling to find. The alley twisted like a labyrinth ahead, shadows dancing menacingly under the faint glow of the streetlights. Jack scanned their surroundings, looking for an escape, a refuge. At the end of the alley, a door swung slightly ajar, inviting them like a whisper in the dark. Without hesitating, Jack yanked it wide open and pulled Lila inside, shutting it firmly behind them. The room was cramped and dimly lit, littered with discarded boxes and clothes. The air was stale, carrying the weight of abandonment and secrets. They crouched low, hearts racing, waiting to hear if the echoes of their escape had drawn attention. What if he finds us? Lila's voice trembled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Jack swallowed hard, his throat dry and tight. He won. He can't. But even he wasn't convinced. What had Lila gotten herself into? Moments passed, stretching into infinity until Jack dared to peek out a dusty window. From this vantage, the street wasn't empty. Shadows moved, figures in dark coats flitted by, their faces obscured. A chill crept up Jack's spine. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice breaking through the heavy silence. The man's low, confident tone threaded through the darkness, reverberating with menace. You think you can hide from me, little girl? I'm closer than you think. Jack's heart pounded louder than ever. Instinctively, he pulled Lila closer. "We have to move again," he said under his breath, urgency tinged with desperation. But where? Her eyes were wide, brimming with fear. The world outside felt suffocating. Jack glanced at the door, weighing their options. He spotted a narrow staircase at the back of the room, leading upward. Maybe upstairs was the key, maybe they could find a window to escape, or at least find some breathing space. "Come on," he urged, grabbing her hand and leading her to the staircase. As they ascended, the old wood creaked under their weight, but neither dared to linger. Finally, they reached a landing that opened into a small, dark room. A single window stood ajar, the night air brushing their faces with a ghostly chill. Jack moved toward the window, peering down into the dim street below. He exhaled, letting go of some of the anxiety that had gripped him since entering the cafe. His eyes darted back to Lila. "Can you climb down?" She nodded but hesitated, eyes still gleaming with uncertainty. "What if he sees us?" "Then we'll be ready," he replied firmly, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. "No more running, we fight this together." Just as they steeled themselves, a loud crash echoed from below. The door they had exited earlier burst open. Jack's heart dropped. Had he led Lila right to them? "Jack!" Lila squeaked, tightly holding on to him. From the shadows emerged the man, stepping into the light. His eyes ablaze, narrowing as he peered at the stairway leading up. His voice dripped with malice. "You can't escape me, Jack. You've only made this harder on yourself." Rage boiled in Jack's veins, and he felt a surge of protection. As they frantically scanned the room for options, Lila's terrified face sharpened his focus. They had to jump. It was now or never, but was that risk worth it? The pounding of his heart urged him forward. But could they really face the truth waiting in the darkness below? And what was this dark truth that tied Lila to that man? As he took a step toward the window, breath hitching in anticipation, he knew one thing for sure. The only way out was through the shadows, and they were about to take a leap into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find safety or the very monsters chasing them? The threshold felt like a precipice of fate. Jack's heart raced, each beat a countdown to their next move. He sensed it. Something terrible was looming just below them. The man's voice echoed in the small room, a chilling confirmation of their worst fears. There was no time to think, only to act. "Lila, on 3, he whispered, feeling her grip tighten around his arm. She looked up at him, fear etched on her face. "What if he catches us?" "We'll fight," Jack replied, forcing calmness into his voice. Terror was no excuse for surrender. 1, 2, 3. They jumped. The world blurred in an instant. The sound of shattered glass punctuated their descent. They hit the ground hard, rolling away from the window just as footsteps thundered above. Adrenaline surged through Jack as he scrambled to get to his feet, pulling Lila up with him. "Run," he urged, darting towards the nearest street. The alley spilled into the main road, lit with flickering neon signs. A restaurant's laughter spilled onto the street, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing behind them. Jack glanced back as they ran, the man's silhouette framed against the doorway, searching for them like a predator. "Which way?" Lila gasped between breaths. Jack's mind raced. "Left," he pointed, pulling her away from their pursuer. They dashed past the unsuspecting diners, their eyes wide with excitement as Jack and Lila passed like shadows. Up ahead, a newsstand loomed, cardboard boxes and papers tossed about in a chaotic mess. Jack skidded to a halt and ducked behind a row of magazines. He pressed Lila against the cool metal rack, keeping his eyes on the street corner. "Stay low just for a moment," he whispered, both terrified and protective. She nodded, her breath quick and shallow. "What if he gets lost? Then we make sure we're gone. One step at a time." His heart pounded with the enormity of their situation. The city felt alive around them, but they were alone, fighting back against a shadow that seemed determined to consume them. In the distance, he spotted the man scanning the crowd. Jack's stomach turned. "He is close." Lila peeked out, her little face a canvas of fear. "What do we do?" Jack scanned the area. "There. A line of cars parked just a few feet away. We need to blend in. Come on." He grabbed her hand again, and they darted toward the vehicles. Ducking LOW as they pressed behind a rusty sedan, Jack felt the urge to hide under a blanket, to shut it all out. But he had to stay strong for Lila. He knew he couldn't tea-break now. She needed him. Suddenly, a shout erupted from the street corner. "Lila, where are you?" The man's voice rang clear, slicing through the noise of the city like a knife. Jack felt his breath catch. The man was calling for her. He knew her name. Panic surged within him, linking their fates tighter than ever. "Stay down. Don't move," Jack whispered urgently. He glanced at Lila, whose innocent eyes brimmed with confusion. "We've got to get away from him. He won't stop until he finds you." In that moment of urgency, something flickered in Jack's mind, a survival instinct ignited by desperation. He thought of the abandoned warehouse just a few blocks away, a place he used to explore as a teenager. No one ventured out there. It might just be their salvation. "We have to head for that warehouse. It'll be a good hiding spot," he said, steeling themselves for the next leg of the journey. "Okay," Lila replied, but doubt lingered in her voice. "Trust me," Jack insisted. "Stick close, and I promise I won't let anything happen to you." With cautious steps, they began to move again, dodging between the cars, hearts racing with fear and determination. As they edged out from behind the sedan, every nerve in Jack's body screamed at him. He glanced back, praying that they had escaped notice. The street was alive, people bustling past, but the looming threat had not vanished. If anything, it was closer. Just then, a flash of movement caught his eye, the glint of a knife in the man's hand. "There you are?" His voice boomed, laced with fury. "Run!" Jack shouted. They bolted forward, sprinting for the alley that led to the abandoned warehouse, Lila's small legs moving as fast as they could. Jack's breath came in gasps, each step echoing the impending danger. As they turned the corner, he caught a glimpse of the man giving chase. Determination etched into his features. They burst through the dilapidated door of the warehouse, slamming it shut behind them. Thick dust motes floated in the air, illuminated by slivers of moonlight. Lila trembled beside him, and Jack took a moment to catch his breath. "What now?" she whispered, her eyes wide, still searching for hope. The air hung heavy with uncertainty, and Jack felt the weight of every moment before them. "Now," he said softly, "we figure out how to stop him." As he spoke, an unsettling creak made the floor above them groan ominously. Jack's heart skipped. Were they truly safe, or had they just walked into a worse nightmare? What lay ahead in the pitch-black shadows of the warehouse? Would they confront their worst fears, or find a glimmer of hope? The silence inside the warehouse felt oppressive, and Jack's heart raced as he strained to listen. The air was thick with dust and the smell of rust, wrapping him and Lila in an unsettling cocoon. The echo of their breaths filled the space, but what he really listened for was the sound of footsteps. Each creak of the old wooden floor above sent chills up his spine. Had the man followed them inside? The thought alone made Jack's palms sweat. "Stay behind me," he hissed, his protectiveness surging anew over the fear. He crouched low, peering into the darkness that swallowed the far corners of the room. "Where do we go?" Lila's voice trembled, a thin thread of panic weaving through her question. Jack took a deep breath, trying to dismiss his own rising terror. "We'll find a spot to hide until we can think of a plan." As he surveyed their surroundings, an abandoned forklift sat against the wall, its cockpit beckoning as a potential refuge. "Over there." He pointed. He led Lila carefully, moving like a shadow, their feet barely making a sound against the dusty floor. Crouching beneath the rusted machine, Jack could feel Lila's small body pressing close to his side. Her warmth was a beacon of resolve, even in the dire atmosphere surrounding them. "I'm scared," Lila whispered, eyes wide as she glanced at the shadows that danced around them. "I know," Jack replied softly, his throat tight. "But we will get through this. You're brave, and I'm here." Moments stretched into what felt like hours, each second gnawing at him. Suddenly, the echo of a loud thump resonated from above, followed by muffled footsteps. Jack's heart dropped. The man was in the building. Sweat dripped down his back as he clenched his fists, his mind racing to find a way out. The only way was forward, but they couldn't reveal their position yet. "Lila," he whispered, turning to her, feeling her fear mirrored back in her eyes. "If he finds us, we need to run fast, okay? Don't look back." She nodded, her courage fragile but appearing firm. Then, a faint voice broke the darkness. "Lila, I know you're in here." The man's voice oozed rage and desperation. Jack's stomach twisted into knots, The predator was close, and the hunt was still on. Lila instinctively grabbed Jack's arm, her nails digging into his skin. "He is calling my name again," she whimpered. Jack's heart pounded harder. This wasn't just any average stalker. There was intent behind those words, a twisted motivation that had turned their lives into this nightmare. He recalled fragments of what he'd overheard back in the small room. Envy, revenge, a family torn apart. But why Lila? She was just a child, caught in this whirlwind of madness. "Stay quiet," Jack cautioned, and began to inch away from the forklift, hoping to find an exit, a window, a door, anything. Silence enveloped them again, but it was a silence filled with dread, as if the world around them held its breath. They moved soundlessly into the shadows. Closer to the back exit, the faint outline of a door hinted at a way out, but stepping into the light could betray their hiding place. Just as they approached it, a sharp clang echoed overhead, making Jack's heart stop. The man was coming down from the upper levels, his silhouette stark against the dim lighting, a knife glinting ominously in his hand. Jack's breath hitched. They had to move, but every instinct urged him to stay still. "We can't let him see us," he murmured to Lila, who was trembling beside him. The man paused, scanning the darkened room, shifting his weight as if trying to pinpoint their exact location. Jack's chest tightened, locking in a surge of protectiveness. If they were caught now, there would be no escape. "Lila, I need you to be incredibly quiet. No matter what happens," he whispered, his heart racing. The tension was palpable, nerves stretched thin. Then, as if fueled by fate, the man took a deliberate step toward them, the blade glinting menacingly under the faint light. "I know you're close, Lila," he taunted, each word dripping with malice. It was later than Jack thought. As the man edged closer, Jack felt the air thickening, the weight of dread pushing down harder. They were trapped, and every hair on his skin felt electrified with fear. Suddenly, a sound erupted outside, blaring sirens echoed in the distance. The man froze, confusion flitting across his features. "Now," Jack shouted, grabbing Lila's hand, adrenaline surging through him as he lunged toward the exit. But just as they stepped out, a figure emerged from the shadows, a cop, gun drawn, eyes wide in disbelief. "Freeze!" The officer barked, but Jack felt the world tilt as he pushed Lila ahead of him. The tension hung thick in the air. There was no turning back now. "Let us go," Jack screamed, dragging Lila into the chaos outside, racing against time as the darkness loomed behind them. Would the sirens be enough to save them, or had they just stumbled into the eye of the storm? The cold night air hit Jack like a slap as they burst into the open, Lila's hand clenched tight in his. Heart racing, he glanced over his shoulder to see the figure of the cop still standing at the door, processing the frantic scene before them. The echo of sirens rang in the distance, a chaotic symphony that promised hope but also deepened Jack's anxiety. "Keep moving, Lila," he urged, pushing her ahead. They zigzagged through the debris-strewn ground of the warehouse yard, every shadow morphing into an enemy. The distant sound of sirens was growing louder, but so was the pounding of his heart. The last thing Jack wanted was to end up tangled in a confrontation with the police, not when they were still so dangerously close to the man. Just as they reached the perimeter of the yard, a harsh voice called out behind them. "Stop!" It was the cop. "Come back here." Jack hesitated for only a moment, then made a split-second decision. A nearby cluster of vehicles provided a temporary shield. "Behind that van," he urged, darting towards the old, rusted vehicle with Lila at his side. They squeezed into the narrow space between it and a nearby wall. The sirens wailed like banshees now, cutting through the night, and Jack's mind raced as he fought to keep his breathing steady. "We can't stay here," he whispered. As he peered around the front of the van, the warehouse door remained open, the sinister silhouette of the man still hidden from view while chaos erupted beyond. A moment later, a glimpse of the man's face sharpened his focus. The fury on his expression was palpable, each feature twisted in rage as he peered into the night, searching for them. It was like watching a predator hunt. "Where are you, Lila?" he shouted, his voice crackling like broken glass through the air. Jack felt Lila's body quiver against him, her eyes filled with tears of fear. "We have to get to the cars," Jack breathed, his mind an active battlefield of plans and fears. "What if he finds us?" Lila's voice was barely audible over the commotion. He won T, Jack said fiercely, though doubt gnawed at his insides. He had to be her shield. Just trust me. They crouched lower as a patrol car swung into the yard, the red and blue lights flashing, casting eerie shadows that danced wildly around them. The man seemed to retreat deeper into the warehouse. Perhaps the police arrival would catch him off guard. A flicker of hope ignited inside Jack, but it was swiftly drowned beneath the weight of uncertainty. Would they even stay safe in the chaotic fray? The officer shouted something again. Its emphasis shifted as if the cops were splitting up. That's when Jack heard a different sound, heavy footsteps slamming against the concrete floor of the warehouse. The man was moving, and he was moving fast. There's no getting away now, Jack murmured, feeling the pit in his stomach yawning wider. Lila, wait here. He emerged from behind the van, just a fraction to grab a rock, a useless weapon in the grand scheme, but a necessity for his racing heart. Suddenly, a patrol officer bolted past him, and Jack felt a surge of courage. They should be focused on him. We can make it. Before Jack had a chance to rethink, he shot out from the van, grabbing Lila's hand once more. They dashed towards the nearest police vehicle, Lila's feet barely keeping pace with his long strides. They had to make it to safety. But just as they reached the half-open passenger door, a loud shout rang through the air, sending a shiver rippling through Jack. Lila. His heart dropped. The man had found them. In that moment, time slowed. Jack's instincts kicked in, his legs carrying him forward even as Lila pulled back, fear flooding her small face. Get in, he shouted, throwing open the door, praying that the darkness would engulf them and carry them to safety. Just as Lila hesitated at the threshold, Jack felt strong hands grasp him from behind, pulling him back as the sirens screamed more deafeningly around them. The chase wasn't over. Not yet. Jack! Lila! The panicked voice of the officer rang around them amidst the swirling lights, but they were only echoing shadows, now a tunnel of telltale danger. What would happen next? Would they escape the storm, or had they run headfirst into the eye of the darkest night? Jack's heart raced as the officer's voice pierced through the chaos. The grip on him tightened, pulling him away from the fleeting promise of salvation. Panic surged in his chest. Lila! He shouted, turning desperately to her as confusion painted her face. Get in now. He could feel the warmth of Lila's hands slipping from his grasp. All around them, chaos erupted. The blinding lights of the patrol car flickered like demonic eyes, casting shadows that twisted and writhed, each one bearing the weight of his fears. Jack turned to see the man cutting through the shadows, driven by a relentless fury, eyes locked on them with singular determination. Go, go, go. The officer's voice cut through Jack's daze, as another figure joined the first, their flashlights sweeping the area like probing fingers, seeking the hidden. Please, Lila whimpered, backing away. Jack couldn't let her see him falter. He drew a deep breath, forcing calm into a racing heart. Hold on to me. With a burst of adrenaline, he pulled Lila closer. His free hand swiped at the door handle, yanking it open wider. Just trust me, Lila. He plunged inside the vehicle, his head ducking low as the shadows deepened behind him. He caught a glimpse of the man, his wild eyes gleaming, rage radiating from his body. In that moment, Jack knew they had only seconds. Jack, he is coming. Lila squeaked, panic sparking madly in her voice. I know. He hurled himself into the driver's seat, hands fumbling over the steering column. The keys were still in the ignition, a miracle amidst the madness. He turned them, praying for the engine to roar to life. Instead, it sputtered just a cough. No, no, no. The sound of heavy footsteps thundered closer, each thud like a countdown, amplifying his dread. Just as the engine coughed again and finally caught, a deafening crash rang out behind them. Jack's heart stopped for a second, a vicious metallic crash against the icon of their escape. Drive! Drive! Lila screamed as he slammed the gear shift to drive, revving the engine. They lunged forward, tires screeching against the gravel. Jack glanced into the rear view, just catching the figure of the man lit by strobing lights, his arms outstretched with fury. The officer charged after them, shouting into a radio. But it didn't matter. Jack was in motion now as they shot through the gates of the warehouse yard. Lila's breathing was fast, jagged, riding the edge of terror. Jack's grip tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles burned. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice unsteady. Lila blinked back tears, her lips trembling as she regained composure. What would happen now? He didn't have an answer. The streets were a blur, mirroring the turmoil churning inside him. "Just stay low. We'll figure this out," he promised, though he could feel uncertainty clawing at the edges of his mind. But the chase wasn't over. As Jack accelerated, he saw headlights in the distance. More officers. Each light cut through the night like knives. "They'll catch up." Lila panicked, glancing back. "How?" he shouted, the frustration mixing with fear. Jack's mind raced for alternatives. They couldn't go back, and there was no way to outrun the police. They needed a plan. He veered off the main road, taking a sharp turn down a darkened side street. The glow of the patrol cars faded behind them, but somewhere, he knew, they were out there hunting. Jack's heart echoed loudly in his chest, thrumming like the dark wings of a hunted bird. Then, just as they plunged deeper into the darkness, Jack spotted an alleyway and made a quick, desperate decision. This way. They skidded into the alley, shadows enveloping them like a cloak. Jack parked and turned toward Lila. "Stay quiet. Whatever happens, don't make a sound." But before he could formulate a plan, faint murmurs floated through the air, voices drawing closer, an approaching storm of questions and accusations. Lila leaned against him, wide-eyed. "What do we do?" As whispers turned into footsteps, incoming danger electrified the air. Jack's mind raced. "We can hide then." In that tense moment of uncertainty, the sound of a radio crackled through the darkness, echoing his fears back at him. An officer reported, "Suspect and child last seen heading towards 5th Street. We need backup now." Somewhere in the shadows ahead, danger and choice collided. They had to decide, stay hidden and risk discovery, or push further into the unknown. Jack gritted his teeth. "We can't just wait." The clock was ticking. They were running out of time. And just then, he sensed a shift in the air, a shadow flickering from the corner of his eye. Something or someone was watching them. "Lila," he began, the words hanging heavy in the electric silence. What awaited them just a step further into the dark? Jack squinted into the dark alley, the shadows lurking like predators. His instinct screamed for action. He'd never been one to cower, but every moment felt heavy with threats lurking in the air. Lila's small frame trembled beside him, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and hope. He had to keep her safe. "Stay close," he murmured, half to himself and half to her. What was he even thinking? Questions raced through his mind, pushing aside any rational thought. They needed a plan, something that would buy them time. The murmurs of the officers grew louder, a chorus of approaching footsteps matching the frantic rhythm of his heartbeat. Jack pressed a finger to his lips, urging silence. But the shadows seemed alive, breathing, ready to expose every secret they hid. "Jack," Lila started, but he shushed her, the whispering energy around them too loud to ignore. A low rumble of voices drew near, mingling with the distant sirens that punctured the night. He squeezed Lila's hand, feeling the sweat on her palm. "Trust me," he said, his voice softer now, trying to calm her. The frantic energy from moments ago buzzed in the back of his mind. Jack's gaze darted around the alley for anything. Trash bins towered like grim sentinels, piles of garbage spilled over. He caught sight of a door slightly ajar on the opposite end, the faintest sliver of light spilling out a potential doorway to either salvation or deeper peril. "Over there," he whispered, pointing to the door. Lila nodded, determination battling her fear. They crept toward it, every step weighed down by the pounding of boots behind them. The officers were only seconds away, urgency electrifying the air. Jack held his breath, trying to drown out the cacophony in his mind. When they finally reached the door, Jack hesitated. What if it was a trap? Panic clawed at him, but he knew there was no choice. The only way out was through that door. He nudged it open just enough for them to slip inside, his heart racing with each creak of its hinges as they stumbled into the dimly lit room. A rush of stale air enveloped them. Shouldering the door closed, Jack's breath quickened as he turned to face Lila. She looked back at him, her expression a mix of dread and trust. "Are we safe?" she breathed. Jack scanned the room, the flickering overhead light revealing shelves stacked with boxes and discarded items. It appeared to be an old storage area, perhaps part of another abandoned building. Outside, the vibrations of angry voices continued, their urgency rising. "Not yet," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to find somewhere to hide." They moved further into the room, slipping behind a stack of boxes piled high against the far wall. Jack's mind raced, adrenaline fueling every thought. They needed to stay quiet, to go unnoticed. The flashlight beams raking through the alley would soon penetrate the old storage area. Time slipped through his fingers like sand. The voices outside grew frantic, echoing through the walls. "Search the area. They can't have gone far." Jack's hand clenched into a fist. His pulse echoed in his ears, each thud amplifying the gravity of their plight. He had to think fast. "Listen, Lila," he began, steadying his breath. "If someone comes in here, you need to stay hidden. Let me handle it." Tears brimmed in her eyes, and Jack felt a pang in his heart. The world outside was closing in, and he didn't want her to feel afraid. But necessity overrode fear. He gently brushed a piece of hair behind her ear and squeezed her shoulder. "I'll be right back." With a lingering glance back at her, Jack edged towards the door, every inch of him on high alert. A barrage of thoughts flooded his mind. He was a father, a protector. If he failed her now, just as he inched closer to the door, it burst open, flooding the room with light. The officer stood silhouetted against the chaotic night, eyes scanning for anything out of the ordinary. "Lila," Jack whispered, panic surging through him. She drew in her breath sharply. "Nowhere to run," the officer shouted, and in that moment, Jack realized the depths of their peril. Their hiding spot had betrayed them. He shot a look at Lila, their worlds colliding in that instant: fear, uncertainty, and the primal urge to survive. And then, from the shadows, another figure emerged, not of the police, but someone distinctly more dangerous. "Jack," a gravelly voice called out, dripping with menace. "Thought you could escape me, did you?" The realization crashed into him. There was nowhere left to hide. What had he brought Lila into? What awaited them as the walls closed in? Everything felt wrong. Jack's heartbeat thrummed in his ears, drowning out the roaring sirens outside and the harsh calls of the officers. "Lila," he murmured, glancing back quickly. The little girl's eyes were wide, fear radiating from her small frame. Deep down, Jack realized something terrible. The threat wasn't just a man chasing them. It was a storm of everything they didn't understand yet. Jack clenched his teeth as he sized up the eerie room. Shadows clung to every corner, lurking like silent predators. The blaring lights outside painted flickering figures against the chipped walls, and just then, the man stepped forward, confidence oozing from him like poison. "Jack, you've made a serious mistake," the man said, his eyes dark as he advanced, blade glinting dangerously. The eeriness of his tone sent a tremor through Jack that anchored him to the spot. There was a chilling backing behind his words, a cruel sort of understanding, as if he believed he was doing something right. Fear gripped Jack, a cold grip that threatened to tighten until he choked. He had to protect Lila. She was everything now. He felt like a wild animal cornered ready to fight, terrified to fail. "You will not take her," Jack growled, fists balling up as every instinct to protect flared to life. "Is that so?" The man sneered, his smile twisted and triumphant. The air felt electric, charged with the weight of unsaid things, with the threat of justice hanging in the balance. "Listen," Jack said, forcing each word out, determination coursing through him. A child doesn't belong to a monster. But in their stillness, the tension shattered with movement. Echoes of footsteps filled the air, followed by shouting voices. The police were closing in. Jack's stomach churned as a flicker of hope ignited. They had come for them. "Lila, we're going to make it. Just stay behind me," Jack whispered fiercely, dropping his shoulders low as if the weight of the world rested on him alone. The man narrowed his gaze, and his expression morphed from playful taunts to pure rage. "You're too late," he hissed. But it wasn't too late. Jack felt a glimmer breaking through the darkness. Just as the man lunged at him, a flash of light broke through, flooding the room with brash brilliance. It was the officers, bursting in like an avalanche, their presence shifting the entire dynamic with shouts and commands. "Hands in the air. Now." The officers surrounded the man, weapons drawn, and for a moment, Jack's world slowed down. "Nowhere to go," an officer shouted, eyes locked on the intruder. "Jack!" Lila squeaked from behind him. and he turned to find her trembling, her small face pale. "Hold on tight." Jack pulled her closer, holding her against him as the chaos unfurled. The energy was electric sharp like static crackling through the room. Just as the officers began to move in on the man, he lunged, but not at them. "I'll get her. She's mine," he roared, reaching past Jack. "No," Jack roared, heart pounding. With a primal instinct, he moved in front of Lila, every muscle tightening as he prepared for impact. "Stop!" the lead officer shouted, gaining footing as the man reeled back, confused. Jack sprang forward, adrenaline thrumming through him, pushing the man against a wall with everything he had. "You don't hurt her." In a whirlwind of momentary chaos, the officers took over. Hands clasped down on the man, pulling him away, shouting orders that felt distant yet urgent. Jack stepped back, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling as before his eyes. Lila stood frightened, yet looking at him with something else, gratitude, maybe even awe. "It's over," a voice called, but they still felt the tension in the air. When he turned back to Lila, his breath caught. She ran to him, small arms wrapping around him tightly, and he melted into the embrace, relief flooding through him like warmth in a long-lost hug. "We're safe," he whispered, cradling her head against his shoulder. "Yes," she said softly, but in her voice, Jack could still hear the hesitation. "But let us get you home," he interrupted, eyes darting around, taking in the chaos left behind. The sirens blared outside, but their hearts beat a rhythm together, now a promise to look after one another. Just a few steps toward the door, and they were met by officers ushering them out towards safety. With officers surrounding them, the cold air hit them both like a gust of clean change. Jack exhaled deeply, glancing down at Lila. She was peering up at him, and in her gaze, he saw the ending unfold. "Where were you from?" Jack asked softly, careful, as they crossed into the main street, where the world still echoed joy. "They hurt people, Jack," she said, bravery breaking through the vulnerability. "But now I'm free." "Yes, you are," he replied, feeling a swell of hope. They would find a way through this night. The darkness chasing them was behind them now. "We will get you a new home, where it's safe," he promised. Now it was time to rebuild, to heal together. He hugged her tight, his heart swelling with determination. They stepped into the pulsing lights of the city, ready to embrace the dawn, ready to face whatever lay ahead. This wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning. Jack grinned down at Lila, and for the first time, they could see a future woven with promises and love. You need to subscribe now, so you won't miss more stories like this. This is the moment to show your support by smashing that like button now. Let us feed the algorithm. Don't hold back, flood the comments with your reactions and theories about Lila's journey and what's next for Jack. And please, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. The truth deserves to be heard, and only loyal fans understand how critical your support is.